Hey guys, it's Alex. Hope y'all are doing well. Welcome back. Today I'm going to do another true crime case. This is one I've looked into for a couple years now. This is one I had found out through the true crime show Forensic Files. This is the case of Rachael Mullenix and the murder of her mother, Barbara Mullenix. And there's a lot of stuff to go through. This is definitely probably going to be one of the most chaotic true crime cases that I've ever read about, and you will see why I say that. So I don't continue yapping. Let's go ahead and get started, shall we? So I do want to make a disclaimer before I start that this story is actually going to involve subjects such as alcoholism and one mention of self-harm. So if you guys can't handle any of those subjects, I would probably recommend click off another video if it's too triggering for you. So now let's go ahead and begin. So Rachael Mullenix was born in 1989, and she was born in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and her parents were Bruce and Barbara Mullenix. Now, Rachael had said when she was a kid that she had a great bond with her mother, and she felt that they were closer to each other than most mother and daughters. But I will say, though, she did admit later in her interview that her mother did have a lot of problems. Now, I'm going to get into some detail about Barbara. There's not a whole lot to cover because I couldn't find a lot of details about it, but let's cover them anyways. Okay, so Barbara Mullenix was born on May 29th, 1950, and we don't know where she was originally from, and we don't really know what really happened in her life, other than that we do know that when she was a teen, she had gotten raped. And we don't know who raped her. That's, I wish I did know. I was trying to search on multiple articles and I couldn't find anything. So before she had met Bruce, she had two marriages that would fail. And in one of the marriages, she had a son whose name was Alex, which, I'm not gonna lie, feels kind of weird saying my own name. Now, after Barbara's second marriage had failed, when she was 37, she had met a man who was 9 years younger than her, named Bruce Mullenix. Now, what attracted Bruce was that Barbara was outgoing and she wasn't afraid to tell him on what she thought of things or like what she felt, and to him, that attracted him. And on November 1987, the two ended up marrying, and then 2 years later, they would have Rachael. Now, when Rachael was a kid, she said her life was really good with her family. And Rachael claimed herself that she was, in fact, a spoiled kid, which, yeah, she definitely is.
I was spoiled. I was. It was like Disneyland. My life then was really, really, really good.
But once she became a teen, that was when Barbara started to become a very bad alcoholic. Her mother started from drinking only like on special occasions or when they were out partying or whatever, to someone who drank and just didn't know when to stop. She even became abusive when she was drunk. And Bruce has said in an interview that if you stand up to her, she would make violent threats onto the family. But it was mostly on Bruce, and Bruce had said when it was happening, he said he would never feel so much anger towards her. Like the first ever time he'd gotten in a horrible argument with her, he had never been so mad in his life. And sometimes the abuse was so bad that Bruce and Rachael would actually go out to their parking lot and go into their car just to sleep there, just so they didn't have to deal with Barbara's chaos. And what's really weird is when Barbara was sober, she would actually feel guilty over what she did. And then when she would become intoxicated, she could be the worst person to be around. And as Rachael got older, Barbara's alcoholism just worsened and worsened. And she would verbally and mentally abuse both Rachael and Bruce. And it worried Bruce because the first thing that he thought in his mind was that this is going to damage Rachael. And one of her childhood friends had actually said that when she and Rachael were both 13, Rachael had banged on her door and was bawling her eyes out. And she said her mom attacked her and bit her on the back of her shoulder. So the family let her call her father. However, Barbara just went over there and also banged on the door. But the difference was she was drunk, and her family, when they noticed that, they immediately called the cops. And then Rachael had then said to their friend after that incident, she just basically said it didn't happen, only just to protect her mother. Now, after 15 years of marriage in 2002, when Rachael was 13, Bruce had had enough, and he and Barbara ended up getting divorced. And after the divorce, Bruce decided to move to Huntington Beach, California, and Rachael had to make the tough decision to either choose to live with her mother or move with her father to Huntington Beach. And to the surprise of a lot of her friends, because they knew what was going on, she picked her mother. And after the divorce, Rachael was going through a lot. Like, she had gotten so depressed to the point that she had started drinking, and she even started self-harming because she didn't know where else to turn. And one of her friends, Kelsey Douglas, who was interviewed, said that she was shocked when she had found out that Rachael was hurting herself.
She's beautiful. Why would she want to hurt herself? I've never seen like a really bad side of her.
And Kelsey had even said even when her mother was at her worst, she still loved her no matter what. But she did definitely know that Barbara was mentally abusive. And then Rachael had said in an interview that she didn't really blame her mom for being the way she was. And it was because she said that her mom had a really difficult childhood. And she doesn't go into detail in the childhood, so I can't honestly say what she went through. But the only thing, like I said earlier, the only thing we know about is that Barbara had been raped when she was a teen. And then Rachael eventually had gotten raped and ended up getting pregnant from this rape. And Barbara was actually very, understanding about it. And she would end up taking Rachael to make her get an abortion. And she wasn't even mad. She was just completely understanding about, what went on, because she had been through what Rachael had gone through. And that's the thing with Barbara. It's like when she's sober, she's perfectly fine. But when when she's an alcoholic, it's like the most stressful person that you could ever be around. Now, after the divorce, Rachael and Barbara would end up moving to Tampa, Florida. However, things were getting a lot worse. In 2004, Rachael had attacked her mom with a knife, and Rachael was actually taken to custody for this. However, Barbara did not want to file charges on her daughter. And to be honest, not just things were bad because of their relationship, but it was also bad because Barbara had financial issues. She didn't have a job. She didn't have savings. She was mostly spending her money on alcohol. And Rachael, well, they had the first thing that came up in her mind was, I gotta call my dad and figure something out. So she asked her dad if she and Barbara could move into his condo with him. In 2005, both Rachael and her mother would move to Huntington Beach, California with Bruce. But, they were just roommates. They weren't, obviously, they weren't married or whatever. So she was just roommates with Bruce until she could live on her own. So Barbara had started a part-time job as one of those, those shows like where they do like walk-ins and stuff, where it's just somebody walking, like you don't necessarily see their face or anything. Well, Barbara worked a part-time job as a walk-on for the CSI show. And even though she found work and was living with Bruce, to Bruce, living with Barbara was like living his nightmare all over again.
It was Disneyland one day, and then hell the next day.
Like, it was just as bad as like before they got divorced. She would argue with Bruce mostly on money. And she even said to Rachael one time, your dad is spending too much money, so he's going to whore you out on the streets so he could pay the bills. And the interviewer, when she heard that, asked Bruce, why did you let her move in with you after all this stuff that was going on? And he said it was just because Rachael asked him to, which I think this clearly shows how much of a spoiled brat Rachael really is. Now, Now we're going to get to early 2006. Rachael was 17 at this point. She had started hanging out with a lot of friends, and she was going to parties with friends. And at one party, she would end up meeting the man of her dreams. And this man was 21-year-old Ian Allen. Ian Wesley Allen was born in 1986 in Los Angeles, California. Growing up, he was considered a very loving guy by his family and friends. He was at home still living with his parents. But, you know, he still would hang out with Rachael and stuff. And when Rachael introduced Ian to the family, Bruce and Barbara in the beginning actually accepted Ian. They really liked Ian. So the thing is that Ian was 4 years older than Rachael, and Rachael was 17, so that was the only problem. She was still a minor, basically. And even though Barbara liked Ian, she still wanted to control Rachael, because Barbara thought if she loses Rachael due to her being with Ian, she felt like she had no other way to survive other than Rachael being with her. And the one person that she blamed this kind of thing on was Ian. And one day, Barbara had found out that Rachael was having sexual relations with Ian, and she even threatened him with a statutory rape charge. But in July of 2006, Rachael and Ian made it clearly obvious that the relationship was not going to end anytime soon. So they brought a note that said, "I give permission to Ian Allen to date our daughter." And Barbara and Bruce ended up signing it. And this note would be carried in Ian's wallet at all times, just so, you know, he wouldn't get arrested for statutory rape, which I'm pretty sure it wouldn't have done anything. But, I mean, to their knowledge, it made sense. Now, one of the biggest things about this story was on August 31st of 2006, Rachael was supposed to be home from Ian's after 1 o'clock, so she had a 1 o'clock curfew, basically, where she can't stay at Ian's house past 1 o'clock. And when she didn't meet that curfew, Barbara went to Ian's house and exploded with rage. Like, she had woke up Ian's whole family and yanked Rachael out of the house and then grounded her. And Rachael said that she was pissed, but she got over it. Or so it seemed to her. So Rachael had said leading up to the events that we're talking about today, she was so mad at her mother that she actually texted Ian saying that she wanted to take her own life. And she had said that she had 60 pills in front of her. So that's just, I'm sorry, but I get it, you're pissed at your mother or whatever. But really, why would you threaten suicide just because of that? Like, I don't know. So she also then sent a text to him that said, "Run or Tuesday." Now, one of the detectives of this case, whose name is Steve Mack, thinks that it was a code murder, which was either we run away or we kill my mom. But Rachael had claimed that it was a misspelling, and it was supposed to say "run on Tuesday," which she did say she had a lot of misspellings in her text, which is probably true, but I don't know. I don't know if that really would be a misspelling or not, to be honest. So 2 weeks later, late at night on September 13th of 2006, Bruce was at a conference in Fresno, California, which was 2 hours away from Huntington Beach. And while Barbara was getting ready for bed that night, Rachael was actually texting Ian and telling him on what Barbara was doing. So she was saying that Barbara was then taking her medicine, and then she said that she went to bed, and then that she woke back up, and then fell back asleep. And then at 2 a.m, Ian had come to the condo, and both he and Rachael took 2 kitchen knives from the kitchen, and they went into Barbara's bedroom, and they started to stab Barbara. And as they were stabbing her, Ian had actually taken a butter knife and actually stabbed her, like, in the eye. Like, I'm not making this shit up. He literally did stab Barbara in the eye. And Ian had claimed that he thought that if he stabbed her in the eye, that she'd be dead immediately. However, the exact opposite happened. It actually made her scream louder, which, I'm not gonna lie, when I first heard about this case and I heard that, I literally envisioned that happening to me. Like, that was just, ugh. It was so, like, and even, like, the reenactments on, like, the shows and stuff, it's even so, like, ugh, so freaking weird to watch. And, you know, another thing, too, was it was obvious that Barbara had had defensive wounds, because there were also stab wounds on her hands, and they stabbed her around 50 times, which is complete overkill. And after Barbara was presumed dead, Rachael had actually started to clean the blood off of the wall with a yellow sponge, which she would actually leave on the side of where Barbara's bed used to be. And I say where Barbara's bed used to be because I mean, you'll see it in the next part. And when she would leave it next to her bed, it turned out that Ian had actually taken her mattress and her bedding and put it into a remote area and burned it. And I think it was obvious because that there was blood on it. And they both also took Barbara's body, put her in an old TV box, and wrapped it in duct tape. And they would end up going to Newport Harbor, and they would throw her into the water. And then after they did that, they drove out of California to escape. Or so they thought. So that morning, after the murder, someone was cleaning their boat, and they had actually found Barbara's body. Now, they saw a box floating in the water, and they were like, oh, maybe it's just trash or something. But they were completely wrong. They had found a woman stabbed to death, and, like, they didn't know who this woman was. So Barbara was then taken to for an autopsy, and they found that she had actually had breast implants, and they were able to trace the breast implants, and it put out an identification, and that person was Barbara Mullenix. Now, the box that was used in her body was actually taken for evidence, and and when they took it in for evidence, they found the address, which was actually led to Bruce's condo, and that was when they found out that they had a really weird, like, living arrangement. The fact that an ex-wife is living with her ex-husband, they found that kind of weird. Now, they also found DNA evidence that was used for the duct tape that was used on it. Now, in Fresno, Bruce was trying to reach out to Barbara and Rachael, but he couldn't get a hold of them, and he thought that was weird. So he drove back home and found police at his condo. He didn't know what the hell was going on. And when he was told that his ex-wife was murdered, he acted way too calm when he was told. Like he was, like, not shocked at all. Like, which I kind of have a theory on why he probably reacted that way. I think because he knew that Barbara had so many problems. I bet he expected someone to, like, have some kind of rage on her or something, to the point that they did this. And he probably wasn't too surprised because of that, but I could be completely wrong on that. And after he reacted that way, the police immediately thought that it was Bruce who did it. So they took him in for questioning, and they said, will you give us your DNA? And he immediately was like, yes, I'll do it. And it was obvious that he was innocent in this case, because in the house, another thing that was found was there was a bloody palm print that was on the wall. So they took his DNA and compared it to the palm print, as well as any other evidence that they found. None of the DNA that was on that was his. So they knew that he had had a good alibi for that day. So they completely let him go. Now, during this time, Bruce was talking about how his daughter Rachael had had a boyfriend and that Barbara was having trouble with him. So the police immediately was like, it must be the boyfriend and Rachael that did it. So the police immediately made sure that they watched his credit card info to see if he was going to use it anywhere. And then soon, Ian went to get gas in Sulphur, Louisiana at a gas station, and they both went inside to buy something. And it is shown on the camera footage that Ian and Rachael are just like roaming around, like nothing wrong, just, you know, getting, you know, something to drink or whatever. And then it was straight after they left that they were immediately pulled over, and both Rachael and Ian were arrested. Now, Rachael had claimed that she had nothing to do with her mother's murder, and that she was knocked out by Ian and got kidnapped by him. And I gotta show you this interrogation footage, because let me tell you, her acting is the worst freaking fake crying and acting I have ever seen in a killer.
I was asleep. It was the middle of the night. I heard my mom scream my name. I ran in her room and I saw Ian standing there on top of her, stabbing her. I tried to push him off and he pushed me off and knocked me out. No one will tell me anything that's going on.
You are under arrest for the murder of your mother.
Do you know that I was kidnapped? Do you know that?
I know that's what you're saying.
What do you mean that's what I'm saying? It's
We
true.
have physical evidence to the contrary.
What do you
We
what do
have-
you mean?
Now, Ian, on the other hand, had said that Rachael was actually completely innocent and that he did this murder all by himself, and that when he was murdering Barbara, things got out of control as he stabbed her. Like, she was hollering, "Rachael, Rachael, help me," when this was happening. Now, after Ian confessed, both he and Rachael were taken into prison, and Rachael no longer wanted anything to do with Ian anymore, which is not that surprising, because usually in cases like this, where the girlfriend or the boyfriend murders the mom, they then turn on each other, which is not a surprise at all in these kind of cases. And another thing that I want to claim too is Bruce believed that Rachael had nothing to do with her mother's murder. However, he can think that all he wants, but he'd be so wrong, because Rachel's DNA was found on the blood-soaked sponge that was on the side of where Barbara's bed used to be. And her DNA, using superglue fuming, also found her DNA on the duct tape that was used to tape up the box that her mother's body was in. And the palm print that was on the wall turned out to be Ian's. And his DNA was also found on the duct tape that was used to tape up Barbara's body. Now, in the end of this case, both Ian and Rachael were actually tried separately. Now, Rachael, after she got arrested, started to claim that Ian was abusive, which obviously was completely false. She did it pretty much just to get sympathy and attention. Now, she claimed that she was forced by Ian to clean up the crime scene, and because of that, she hated Ian for that. However, after the cleanup, now I'm going to be honest, if she was truly forced to do this, she had actually texted him after the cleanup and said the words, "I love you." Yeah, that sounds like you were completely forced to do that. But yeah, it's clearly obvious that that was total BS, that she was completely forced to clean up the crime scene. Because if you were forced to clean up the crime scene, you would not be texting "I love you" to the person that killed your own mother. But anyways, obviously people in the court didn't buy that she was abused by Ian. And in the end, both her and Ian Allen, even though they were tried separately, they were both found guilty of first-degree murder for the murder of Barbara Mullenix, and both of them were sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. Now, Bruce, Rachel's dad, still thinks till this day that Rachael had nothing to do with her mom's murder.
Her father says nothing can change how he feels about her.
Do you still love her?
I still love her. completely. And I always will. I'm very proud that she's my daughter. Very proud.
Now, the main reason why I decided I wanted to do this case now was because I had just found out a couple days ago when I was like reading up on this case that on October 14th of 2022, which was 2 months ago, after serving 15 years in prison, Rachael Mullenix was released. And she's now 33, and she is currently residing with her dad in California. Now, Ian, on the other hand, is still in prison till this day. Which, in my personal opinion, like, she should have not been released. She should have served her full 25 years. I honestly wonder, I wonder if she got out just because of, like, good behavior or something. Because I know, like, people would literally do that. So I probably won't be surprised if she got released because of good behavior. And that was the case of the murder of Barbara Mullenix and the story of Rachael Mullenix. Now, this is one of those cases that I have so many mixed emotions about because, in a way, I can understand why Rachael was getting so frustrated with her mother because of her alcoholism and stuff. But at the same time, like, Barbara shouldn't have been killed over it. Like, I get it, she was frustrating or whatever, but it doesn't excuse your reasoning to murder your own mother. Well, and it's obviously one of those true crime cases where the girl and the boyfriend kill the mom just so they could run away together. It's another one of those kind of cases. So yeah, that's why, you know, there's so many mixed emotions that just come out of me because in a way it was obvious that Barbara definitely was abusive in a way. But at the same time, does that make it an excuse for Rachael murdering her mother? No. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. I know this video kind of seemed very quick than the last one I did. This was kind of like a last minute thing that I kind of wanted to do. It's just school related stuff, and I've just been, like, you know, overwhelmed with school, and I wanted to do more true crime related stuff. I hope to do more at least real soon because I actually really like doing this kind of stuff. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys real soon. Bye, guys.